Hey, did you know that every single day, in the tiniest moments with your baby, you're literally wiring their brain for life? Over 1 million connections forming every second. That's right. Your smiles, your words, even the way you pick them up, are building the foundation for how they'll think, feel, and learn forever. Stick with me, because I'm about to show you a game-changing way to make every interaction count, no matter how young your little one is. Now let's dig deeper. Have you ever wondered why some kids seem to pick up skills faster or handle emotions better by the time they're in school? It's not just luck or genes. It's about what happens in those first few years when their brain is like a sponge on overdrive. See, at birth, your baby already has almost all the brain cells they'll ever need. But the magic? It's in the connections between those cells. Connections that let them move, talk, think, and feel. And here's the kicker. Those connections aren't preset. They're shaped by you, by every giggle you share, every time you respond to their cries, every mundane moment of play. Research shows that in those early years, a baby's brain is forming over 1 million neural connections every single second. As they grow, their brain starts to tie up, keeping the strongest connections and trimming the weaker ones to get sharper and more efficient. So the way you engage with them right now isn't just cute. It's deciding which pathways stick around for life. Think about that. Your daily interactions are literally sculpting their future mind. I've seen this play out in countless families. Like one mom I worked with, who noticed her toddler seemed behind in talking. She wasn't ignoring him, but she was often distracted, phone in hand, half listening. When we focused on intentional back-and-forth moments, just a few minutes a day, his babbling turned to words in weeks. That's the power of connection, and it's backed by hard science. A study with 191 families done by researchers Koch and Collies tracked parent-child interactions from age 1 to 4. They looked at how attentive and responsive parents were to their kids' cues. Then, at age 8, they did MRIs on these kids. The results blew me away. Kids with more sensitive, responsive care had larger brain volumes, more gray matter. That's the stuff that processes everything. And thicker areas in regions tied to motor skills, sensory processing, and decision-making. In plain English, their brains were more advanced, just because their parents tuned in early on. That's not a small thing. It means the way you respond to a coo or a cry today could impact how your child solves problems or handles stress a decade from now. And it's not about being perfect. It's about being present. I remember watching a dad at a park, totally overwhelmed with his newborn. He'd just gone back to work, barely slept, and here was this tiny human staring at him like he held all the answers. He admitted he often just went through the motions, feeding, changing, done. But when we talked about really noticing his baby's signals, something clicked. He started mimicking her little sounds, waiting for her to answer with a gurgle. That shift, that tiny bit of focus, changed how he saw fatherhood. It's these small pivots that build big results. And I'm going to walk you through exactly how to do it, step by step, starting today. Let's get to the heart of it. How do you actually build those brain-boosting connections in the chaos of parenting? It's simpler than you think, but it's gotta be intentional. The core idea is this. Your baby's brain thrives on interaction, on a back and forth that's like a dance. When they send you a signal, a look, a cry, a reach, and you send something back with care, you're wiring their brain for trust, learning, and growth. This isn't just fluffy talk. It's how neural pathways form. Miss those signals too often, or respond in ways that don't match their needs, and those pathways weaken. But get it right, and you're setting up a brain that's resilient and sharp. Let me paint a picture. Imagine a busy morning. Your 6-month-old is in the high chair, staring at a toy just out of reach. They grunt, stretch their chubby arms, eyes locked on it. That's their signal. Their, "Hey, I want that." If you're distracted, scrolling on your phone, that moment slips by. The connection doesn't form. But if you look up, see their focus, and say, "Oh, you want your bear?" while handing it over with a smile, you've just strengthened a tiny neural bridge. Then they grin or babble back. That's their response, and the dance continues. Multiply that by hundreds of moments a day, and you're shaping a brain that knows it's seen and safe. Now let's break this down with science and real life. That study I mentioned earlier, it showed kids with responsive parents had physically different brains by age 8. More gray matter, thicker decision-making regions. Why? Because every time a parent noticed a need and met it, they reinforced pathways for emotional regulation and problem solving. I've seen this firsthand with a family struggling after their second kid arrived. The older child, just 2, started acting out, throwing toys, tantrums nonstop. The parents were exhausted, often snapping or ignoring him. When we worked on tuning into his cues, like when he'd point at a book with a hopeful look, they started responding with, "Want to read together?" instead of brushing him off. Within a month, his meltdowns dropped, and he started using more words to ask for things. Why does this work? Because consistent, caring responses tell a child's brain, "The world listens to me. I can communicate." That builds confidence and language skills, but it also wires their stress response system to stay calm under pressure. Let's talk newborns for a second, 'cause I know they're trickier. Their signals aren't clear like a toddler's. A squirm could mean hungry, tired, or bored. Get it wrong, and you might soothe a hungry baby with a nap, missing the mark. That's why learning their unique cues is everything. A hungry cry often comes with rooting or sucking motions. Tiredness might show in eye rubbing or yawning. I worked with a mom whose newborn cried nonstop at night. She thought it was just colic, but when we watched closely, we saw subtle lip smacking. Hunger, not pain. Adjusting her feeding rhythm changed everything. The baby slept better, and so did she. This isn't about being a mind reader. It's about watching, guessing, and adjusting. Every time you try, even if you're off, you're teaching their brain that someone's paying attention. And over time, as they grow, 6 months, a year, 2 years, their signals get clearer. A point, a word, a head nod. You'll start to read them like a book. But it starts with those messy early guesses. The science backs this up too. Early responsiveness doesn't just build language or motor skills, it shapes emotional health. Kids who get consistent care in the first years are less likely to struggle with anxiety or behavioral issues later, because their brain learns the world is predictable and kind. So, whether your little one is a newborn or a toddler tearing through the house, every day is a chance to build their mind, one tiny interaction at a time. It's not about fancy toys or expensive classes. It's about you, right there, in the middle of spilled Cheerios and sleepless nights, showing up. But here's a curveball for you. What if the secret to all this brain building isn't just responding, but playing a specific kind of game with your baby? I'm talking about something called serve and return, and it's like tennis, but with smiles and babbles instead of a ball. Your baby serves with a cue. Maybe they coo, point at a toy, or reach for you. Your job is to return with a matching response. Talk about the toy, pick them up, or just smile back. Then you pause, giving them time to process and serve again. It sounds simple, but it's powerful. because each exchange builds those neural connections we've been talking about. Why does this matter more than just being there? Because it's active, not passive. It's teaching their brain to expect a response, to trust interaction, which is the bedrock of learning and relationships. Let me show you how this plays out. Picture a 1-year-old at the kitchen table, eyeing some banana slices on the counter. They whine a little, arms waving. That's their serve. You catch it and say, "Oh, you want a banana?" while pointing to it. That's your return. They nod or grunt louder. Another serve. You hand over a piece with, "Here you go," and they grab it, maybe holding it up like a trophy. Another serve. You laugh. "Look at that banana." And the game goes on until they look away. Done for now. That's serve and return in action. And every step wires their brain for communication and trust. Now, I know with newborns, it's harder. Their serves aren't as obvious. A glance, a tiny frown. I remember a parent I helped, totally stumped by their 3-month-old's fusses. We sat together one afternoon, watching. The baby would stare at a rattling toy, then look at Dad, then back at the toy. That was the serve. Subtle, but clear once you saw it. Dad started shaking the rattle, saying, "You like this sound?" And the baby's eyes lit up, kicking their legs. Another serve, at back and forth, even without words, was building pathways for attention and joy. The challenge is when serves overlap or confuse you. A cry could mean 3 things. If you misread it, say, offering a toy to a tired baby, you might see frustration. That's okay. The key is to keep trying, because even the attempt shows their brain someone cares. And here's where it gets wild. The earlier you start, the bigger the impact. That study with the 191 families, it showed responsive care from day 1, even before age 1, though they started tracking later. Sets a trajectory for advanced brain development. So don't wait till they're talking or point. Start now, even if it's just mirroring a newborn's coo. Every serve, every return adds a brick to their mental foundation. I've seen parents transform with this. Moms and dads who felt lost, like they were failing, suddenly lighting up when they got their baby's signal. It's not just about brain science. It's about feeling connected in the grind of parenting. So let's get practical. Watch for those serves today. A look, a sound, a reach. Return it with your voice, your touch, your attention. Keep the rally going. And you're not just playing a game. You're building a mind. All right, let's hit the peak of why serve and return isn't just a nice idea. It's your most powerful tool for shaping your child's future, backed by undeniable evidence and real-world impact. First, let's unpack why this method is so effective. Every time your baby serves with a cue and you return with a response, you're triggering a cascade of brain activity. Their brain releases chemicals like dopamine, which reinforce that connection, making it stronger. Miss too many serves, or returning consistently, and those pathways don't solidify, potentially impacting how they process emotions or learn later. The science is crystal clear. Early interactions shape the architecture of the brain. That Cup and Colley study with 191 families isn't just a random stat. They observed parents from when kids were 1 to 4, noting every detail of responsiveness. Did they notice a child's signal? Did they match the need, like comforting distress or joining in play? Then, at 8, those MRIs revealed stark differences. Kids with attuned parents had more gray matter, up to 10% more in some areas, and thicker cortexes in regions controlling sensory input, movement, and choices. That's not abstract. It translates to faster learning, better coordination, even calmer reactions to stress. Why? Because responsive care builds a brain that expects the world to make sense. Now let's zoom in on serve and return with a detailed example I witnessed. A family I supported had a 15-month-old who barely spoke while peers were stringing words together. The mom was loving but overwhelmed, often multitasking, cooking while the child played alone. She'd miss half the serves, like when he'd point at a truck and grunt, hoping for a chat. We practiced serve and return intentionally. One day he pointed again, and she stopped, got down to his level, and said, "Oh, big truck? Vroom vroom." He lit up, mimicking voom, his first clear sound in weeks. That was the return, and his next serve was pointing at another toy, wanting more. Over days, then weeks, those exchanges snowballed. His vocabulary grew. But more than that, his tantrums dropped. He didn't need to scream for attention anymore. That's brain building in real time. Let's talk newborns, because I know they're a puzzle. Their serves are subtle, a gaze, a hand twitch. Misreading them can feel defeating, but it's part of the process. I remember a dad with a 2-month-old, frustrated because she'd cry after feeds. He'd rock her, assuming tiredness, but it didn't work. Watching closely, we noticed she'd turn her head toward him, mouth open, a serve for connection, not sleep. He started talking softly, "Hey, I'm here," and she'd quiet, staring at his face. That return matched her need, wiring trust into her tiny mind. The data supports starting early. Neural connections peak in the first year with over 1 million forming per second. By age 3, 80 to 90% of brain architecture is set. Miss that window with inconsistent responses, and you're playing catch up. But nail it, even imperfectly, and you're giving them a head start. I've seen this with countless families. Parents who thought they had to teach skills, when really, it's about reacting to what's already there. Serve and return isn't extra work. It's weaving brain growth into diaper changes, meal times, bedtime chaos. Let's get granular with challenges. Under 6 months, serves overlap. Squirming might mean hunger or boredom. Guess wrong, and you might see fussing. That's fine. Adjust. I had a mom swear her 4-month-old's cries were always hunger. Turned out, late afternoons were overstimulation. Changing the return. Dim lights, soft hums. Flipped the script. With older babies, serves get complex. A 1-year-old might whine for food, but really want your lap. Watch the whole picture. Eyes, body, context. The beauty is, as they grow, you'll decode them faster. By 2, a head tilt might mean read to me, and you'll know. Every stage builds on the last, but only if you're in the game. So don't overthink it. Start messy, start now. Notice a serve today, return it, wait for their next move. You're not just parenting. You're programming a brain for resilience, curiosity, and connection. That's the power you hold. And the science, the stories, the results, they all scream the same thing. These early moments aren't small. They're everything. Now let's take a breath and zoom in on a moment that'll stick with you. One that captures why this all matters on a heart level, not just a head level. Picture this. It's a quiet evening. You're bone tired. Maybe the dishes are still in the sink, and your 3-month-old is lying on a blanket, just staring up at you with those big, searching eyes. You've had a long day, barely keeping it together, but then it happens. They flash their first real smile. Not a gas bubble, not a reflex, but a genuine gummy grin, like they're saying, "I see you." Your heart stops. You can't help it. You smile back, wide and silly, maybe cooing, "Hey, sweet pea." And then, as if they've been waiting for this, their smile grows. Their little mouth opens like they're trying to talk. Tiny hands waving. That's serve and return right there in its purest form. You didn't plan it, didn't overthink it, but in that split second, you built a connection, both in their brain and between your souls. I've watched this unfold with so many families, and it never gets old. There's something raw and magical about it. Like you're speaking a secret language no one else knows. I remember sitting with a new mom, barely out of the hospital, who felt like she was failing because her baby didn't do much. We just waited one afternoon, no agenda, and then her newborn locked eyes with her and let out this tiny, breathy coo. She mirrored it, almost by instinct, whispering, "Oh, you talking to me?" And the baby cooed again, louder, like they were thrilled to be heard. She teared up, laughing through it, because for the first time, she felt like they were a team. That's what these moments do. They're not just wiring a brain for learning or skills, they're wiring you both for love. And here's the thing, those little exchanges, they stack up. That first smile turns into a babble you answer, then a point you name, then a word you cheer. Each one is a brick in a wall of trust and understanding. I've seen dads who swore they weren't good with babies melt when their infant reached for them after a returned smile. I've seen exhausted parents find a second wind when their baby's giggle echoed their silly face. It's not always easy. Some days you'll miss the serve, or you'll be too wiped to return with a grin. But even on those days, showing up, trying, matters, because your baby isn't judging your performance. They're just soaking in your presence. And every time you play this game, even imperfectly, you're telling their brain, "You're worth my time. You matter." So think back to your own quiet moments. Maybe a late night feed when your baby stared at you like you hung the moon? Or a random afternoon when they reached for your finger and squeezed. That's the stuff that builds them and builds you. Hold on to that feeling, because it's not just a fleeting cute thing. It's the heartbeat of why we do this. It's why even when parenting feels like a slog, these tiny rallies of serve and return remind us what we're fighting for. They're the glue that turns a rough day into a memory you'll carry forever. So let's wrap this up with the big takeaway. Every day, with every smile, coo, or cry you respond to, you're shaping your baby's brain for a lifetime of learning, feeling, and connecting. Serve and return isn't just a technique, it's your superpower. Start today, even if it's messy, even if you're guessing at their cues. Watch for their serves, return with your attention, and keep the dance going. The science is undeniable, the stories are real, and the impact is forever. Stronger neural connections, sharper skills, deeper trust. You've got this. And if you're hungry for more ways to build up your little one, stick around. There's so much more to share. If you found this helpful and want to keep hearing these insights, hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell. It's the best way to support me and make sure you don't miss what's next. Content like this can vanish sometimes, so join the crew now. And hey, drop a comment. Tell me about a moment when you got your baby's signal. What was their serve, and how'd you return it? I can't wait to read your stories.